a cohesive team. I thought that was a unicorn, a bit of an illusion.
Confusion is ugly, undermines teamwork and cohesion and kindness by its nature.
My first kick of the cat, if that's the phrase,
kick of the cat.
Was
yeah, I hope you don't
can.
kick the cat. Don't kick the cat. We're animal lovers.
Welcome to the Serious Playfulness podcast, where we explore the work of building healthy, mission-driven organizations that don't suck the life out of you. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Stephanie. And if you secretly dream of a workplace that you actually want to go to, then you're in the right place. Let's get to work.
I'm Kyle Neilson here with Stephanie Rivard, and we're going to talk about the fear of being found out regarding the imposter syndrome in leadership. And we've noticed that a lot of people leading teams, leading organizations, perhaps if they're new or at different times in their career, struggle with this, that they struggle with thinking that I'm not good enough, I'm not capable enough, I'm not smart enough, I shouldn't be here. And we want to unpack that together in discussion. Why is that? And how do we think about this? And what can be done about it? And I'm curious, Steph, have you ever felt this way in your leadership journey? Let's start with that.
Yeah, I sure have. A couple scenarios come to mind. I landed a leadership position when I was quite young in age, and I mean, that's just the circumstances I found myself in. But I had a large sense that I should know things that I didn't know. And people would look to me for that information or for guidance, and my brain would do something along the lines of like, oh shit, you should know that answer then. You're being asked, therefore you should know. And yeah, so I questioned my capacity there, or was I in over my head? Did they pick the right person? But I'm here, so I guess I make the best of it. That scenario. And then another scenario comes to mind when I was running an event, actually, that I questioned, like, are you really doing this? And who are you to do this sort of thing?
Yes.
That someone else with more credentials or more something, I don't always even know what that fill in the blank is there, but someone else would be better suited for this. Yeah.
And talk to us about what was it like? What did you do? What did you experience? How did you navigate through that?
The first one, I think, just being young and naive, I didn't have the humility to say it, so I just faked it. I just like suit up and show up, right?
Yes.
And maybe there was something helpful in a portion of that it made me problem solve and step out of my comfort zone. The second event, or the second situation where I felt like, who am I to be doing this thing? I just didn't listen to it, actually. I said, well, you are the one doing the thing, so just get over yourself. Just do the thing that's freaking you out, or that I felt intimidated by. And I'm here, so
Yes,
just give it what I got.
It makes me think about if we break down what the imposter syndrome consists of, I think part of it is that there is a kind of selfish root and a lack of humility, like you said. Let's talk about the selfish thing. It tends to make you turn inward, right? And think about, do I have enough? Am I comfortable enough? Am I competent enough? And we know that can be a dangerous place for leadership, because leadership is about other people, right? It's about serving them, guiding them, directing them, developing them. And ironically, as we worry about not being good enough, we can forget about the other people and just start thinking about ourselves. And then the humility piece, recognizing that it's okay not to have it all together, or have it all figured out, or have it all perfectly organized in your head or your background. And I remember early in my consulting career, I found myself advising people, leading things that I'd never done before, led before. And often I would wonder, is am I the right person for this? Can I actually be helpful to you? And I had to just remember that I can do certain things and they've engaged me to do certain things and I can do those well and just focus on that and forget about myself a little bit.
You mentioned something that was interesting that I think most leaders are to some percentage figuring it out as they go.
Hmm.
Some they're running on track record and experience. Certainly there's a level of that happening. But if you're stepping out of your comfort zone, you're trying something new, then it's quite probable, in fact, most likely expected to feel out of your league, to feel like you're an imposter to some degree because it's new. It's actually an appropriate response to stepping outside of your comfort zone and trying something different. And I wonder how much more helpful it might be if society we just adopted that. I think Brene Brown has a saying about she calls it F and first time. She says it more friendly for children, friendly first time, maybe. I forget her adage. But she says, like, this, the first time you're doing something, it should feel awkward. You should feel insecure. You should wonder, I don't know how to do this very well. And those are natural cues. They're appropriate for the event.
Hmm.
And I love that idea that it's not a sign of error, it's a sign of the situation, a natural response. It's snowing right now. If I walk outside and my feet are cold, natural response. If I step outside my comfort zone and I get a bit intimidated, like natural response. I think that's normal.
Yes.
And what about you? You said early in your career that sense of who am I? Who am I to say this and give advice?
Yes, and partly is you're right. There were situations where I didn't always know what the right thing to advise on or do was, and you just kind of do your best, and then you gain experience with time, and then you can offer more. But in that early time when you're thinking you're tempted to tell yourself that you are a fake, you're an imposter. I like what you said. You have to recognize that you're not fake, but you don't know a whole lot, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That will come with practice and experience.
Yeah.
And you do really have to manage that internal voice because it can take you down, right? It can take you out.
I think
How?
for some,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. I think for some leaders, the fear in being vulnerable about that and confessing, I don't have all the answers. I don't know really what I'm doing in this is if they were to say that to their team or the people around them and the people following them, that they would just lose credibility, right? No one would follow someone who's self-professed figuring it out.
Right.
And I'm curious, over your years of experience, what have you seen in that regard? I think that there's something refreshing about a leader who says that and who can admit that. I would be drawn to that, but maybe only to a certain extent. If someone was really floundering, at some point I might decide not to stay on their ship, right? Or
Right.
what have you seen in your years of experience that way?
I think it reminds me of a Lencioni story about or concept of distinguishing between competency and vulnerability based trust. If someone is continually saying, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm overwhelmed, I'm lost, then maybe they're actually not capable of what's going on there. That's a different thing than a different anatomy of the person who at a certain point or at a certain stage of growth is struggling and needs help. And I think we had a leader talk to us once and say, I'm not sure if I'm the right person for this situation, this stage of growth. And it was a very honest question that we heard from this person. And I thought it would be appropriate for him to tell his team that he wonders, because I know he's very capable and respected by them. So it's not an issue of are you competent to even do this, but it's an honest question of am I the right guy for the next phase? And I think that would elicit a beautiful sense of honesty and appreciation and respect from people to go there.
Yeah. I I think the risk of not having that conversation is that question will stay unanswered, which is dangerous. It will be filled with probably not a lot of truth or affirmation,
Yes.
but fabricated scary stories.
You mean
And so
in the
it'll stay
leader's mind or elsewhere? What do you mean?
in the leader's mind.
Yeah.
They'll keep that sitting there wondering, and it'll prod and poke up in moments of self-doubt. And I think the other risk of not airing that question is overcompensating.
Mm,
That now I'm going to try to earn my place here because I'm not sure if I ought to be here.
hmm
And that is not enjoyable to have on a team when someone is trying to outshine and you know.
Be forced to straining, right? And trying too hard. That's really interesting. I wonder therefore how this would affect relationships on a team then.
Mm.
If someone is trying too hard to make up for this sense of inadequacy, what do you think that would do? I could imagine it would well create a kind of fake strain or like a weird pull on things. What do you think about that?
I think the fake it till you make it only works a little bit. And then the rest we know, you don't know. You know, it's like stop pulling ideas just out of thin air and admit I actually don't know. And I think this is the best bet. And just to be open about that
Hmm.
instead of a false confidence because we're trying to portray ourselves in a certain way,
hmm
because that's not appealing at all. And you can sniff that out. You can see that in a room that yeah, this person is maybe overdoing it because I'm guessing they're insecure,
hmm
actually.
hmm
Yeah.
Insecurity. Let's talk about that a little bit. With, I suppose, whatever insecurities a person might have, and we all have them in different ways and different degrees, those can certainly prompt the imposter syndrome. Because what's an insecurity? It's a, I'm not sure if I'm good enough. I don't know if I'm whatever, capable, smart enough. And then you put that into a situation where there are some new real demands and you are tested. And those little, let's call them demons in the back of your head, are going to be triggered, for lack of a better term.
Mhm.
We've talked about how you can fight this with the internal narrative management, if I can call it that, right? Speaking the truth to these situations and not accepting the lies that might be there. What about if you're not sure? What if you genuinely aren't sure if you're capable for something and you're not sure how candid you should be with your team because you're not sure where it might go? What do you do with that? What are your thoughts on that?
I would do it anyways. If I'm not capable for the job at hand, I am eager to get out of the job at hand.
Mm,
Like
hmm
why hang on to that? I mean, maybe outside of financial reasons, at its core, let's figure that out. That's good to know. And again, on a healthy team, we should be able to sort that one out pretty quickly. Do
mm,
you have the capacity that is needed for the demand? And
hmm
if not, and you're able to learn it, then all we have to do is some professional development, get you on a learning track. And if you don't have it and you're not willing to learn, then that's an interesting situation. Or maybe it is like a misunderstanding of what's needed.
mm,
But oh, you just need, I don't know, this level of financial analysis on the monthly reports. Oh, well, I can do that level. I was afraid you needed this level, this depth, in which case I don't have that. And
hmm
inside of a few minutes, it's clear.
hmm
I,
Yes,
I, yeah, and talk it out. I don't know. What would you do?
I think you're right. Because what's the point in not knowing would be brutal, right?
Yeah.
Lead people to a lot of stress and a lot of angst and worry and wondering. And the the quicker we can help people get there, the better. And it's certainly something that I've appreciated in our teamwork is we can be very, very candid. It's beautiful.
Mhm. And that's kind. It is such an act of love that instead of beating around the bush or kind of sprinkling bits of this truth. This is the one I have a pet peeve about this where people will say, "Oh, I addressed this with so and so." And I'll ask, "Well, what did you actually say?" And what they said did not actually address it. It was this kind of dancing around or a little sprinkle of clarity.
Hmm.
And clarity is probably not even the right word there. And that's unkind. It is unkind to expect another person to mind read what I don't have the courage to say.
Hmm.
That is not generous or virtuous or good leadership. And instead of just saying things plainly, looking at problems plainly, giving feedback plainly, admitting like we're talking about with imposter syndrome, admitting actually I'm kind of feeling a bit of that right now because I've never done this part and what could you tell me if I'm lacking here or is there something else you need from me? Just say it. Like gosh, just spit it out.
Hmm. 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 How do you
Wouldn't the
think
world
this?
be better? Right?
Yes.
Wouldn't it, just imagine all the teams and the people who their meetings would be so refreshing if that's how they conducted themselves.
Yes. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
How do you think this fear of not being adequate affects things like decision making? I think we talked about relationships a little bit and also risk taking.
Mm.
Maybe I'll start with that. I think with the decision making thing, it could lead to probably a paralysis in some. We were having some chats about the genius of wonder, that function in work where we ponder possibilities and think at a 30,000 feet kind of level. And I think people that gravitate towards that can sometimes overthink and spin their wheels. And you add to that an imposter syndrome of whether maybe I don't have enough, then I think that person could get very stuck, as an example. Or they could maybe just make precipitous decisions where it's like I have to be decisive, so I'm just going to decide, but I didn't really think. And so you make rash decisions. When you were in those situations you described, how did it affect you in terms of decision making?
I think I was reluctant to ask for good counsel and good input for my team, which is stupid because that's the point of a team is to get feedback from other brains. But the imposter syndrome would tell me, you should know this. Your job requires you to have this kind of capacity or knowledge or decision-making authority and just get there. So I wouldn't ask for enough input. You're right, there's that overdoing it where we don't want to go to that side, but there's somewhere in the middle that is collecting information from a team and making a decision. And yeah, inside the imposter syndrome, I'm probably more prone to not collect information. Don't ask for feedback. Just make a make a decision and look like you mean it.
And try to appear confident.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm. And what about risk taking? I'm wondering about teams and leaders that struggle with this. I would think that taking risks becomes more scary because you're increasing issues in your mind. Things are being inflated in your mind about how significant they are, how challenging they are. So you'd probably be inclined to avoid risks and play it too safe, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think so. That what I'm wondering about there is two scripts that would be in my head. One is I'm not good enough to handle this, therefore pick a really safe route. And two, that I can't I can't appear to fail. So again, low risk, so I can preserve my ego there, so I'm less likely to fail, and the safety and security of that safe decision too, the low risk decision. I believe my capacity might be able to handle that. Like I'm not capable of doing something more bold or risky.
Hmm. And how do you think what would your advice be to a leader that's in this place? Any other final words? If you're struggling with knowing if you're in the right spot, and I think we've talked about it already partly, is just bring this to your team.
Mhm.
And if you're really not sure you're capable of it, get someone to help you know if you are.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you can, find something different if it's better for you.
Yeah.
Anything to add to that?
No, I think that's it. Just spit it out. As I said before, just get it out. There's a saying, you're only as sick as your secrets. Have you heard this before?
No.
It's beautiful, it's powerful, and it's very true all over my life. However, I think the phrase originated in addiction recovery of all places.
Oh, okay.
But it's true, everywhere, that we're only as sick as our secrets. What does this mean to me? This means that the things that I want to keep hidden, like an imposter here, aren't I? Or I'm not good enough here, aren't I? That as soon as I say these things out loud, they lose power.
Hmm.
Maybe not all power, but a whole bunch. They lose power over me. And in a sense, we're putting them into the light, bringing them to the light. We know that this is a good practice. But I would just say bring it to the light and have people who hopefully you trust and respect speak into that.
It's beautiful. I think that's it.
Well, that's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
Thank you for joining us on the Serious Playfulness podcast. If this episode gave you something to think about or try, please share it with someone else who needs to hear it.
And you can check us out at teamwork.ca, 2 E's in team.